Hi people, welcome back to my YouTube channel. So today we're going to look at risk monitoring and control as project managers, monitoring and evaluation officers or managers. We all know and all encounter risks in our project implementation. So how do we control the risks and monitor the risks? That's what we're going to look at in today's session or video. Before we get into it, a risk is any occurrence that may affect the project implementation. Any occurrence that may affect an environment, any environment that may affect either positively or negatively, most importantly negatively, the project implementation or the project in achieving its objectives. So that's why in project environment and project implementation, we look at risk monitoring and control so that we make sure we manage these risks before they affect our project objectives or implementation. So in today, we're going to look at what is in risk control and monitoring and the risk action plans. Monitoring and control of risks is a process of implementing risk response plans, tracking residual risks, identifying new risks, and evaluating risk management effectiveness. So in this process, you're implementing your risk response plans. These are the plans you've come up with, the risks that may potentially affect the project progress. You track these residual risks. You can identify new risks and then evaluate the risk management effectiveness, the risk solutions you proposed. How are they being effective in actually responding to the risks you listed in your risk response plans? Then the risk action plans is checked across the whole risk and the PLC. Normally, in monitoring and control of risks, we choose alternative strategies, contingency, fallback positions to actually manage these risks. You can use any alternative strategies or any contingency to manage any risk that may potentially affect your project implementation or project objectives. And these normally occur during the project implementation. So they keep occurring and you keep updating your risk response plans or risk registers. So the risk monitoring and control process starts from when we have our inputs, which you look at when you're going to do risk monitoring and control, the risk register, the risk action plans, the work performance information, the deliverable and progress status, the costs and budgets incurred and performance reports. All these inform you of your risk monitoring. Risk registers, you can look at the risk registers, what is listed in the risk registers, so that you monitor and control and manage effectively. The risk action plans that have been given to you by maybe the project managers or coordinators, the work performance information, the deliverables and progress status. All these are inputs you need in your risk monitoring. Progress status, that is progress status reports. These also come with the risks and mitigation measures. You can look at them, then the costs and budgets incurred, and the performance report. Tools and techniques you can use in your risk monitoring or control. You can use risk assessments, risk audits, variance and trend analysis. You analyze the trend of this risk and how it has been managed over time. It can inform your strategies. Status meetings, you can review these risks and come up with strategies or solutions to address the risks mentioned. Status reports, technical performance measurement reports, the reserve analysis. All these can be tools you can use to manage effectively the risks that have been outlined in the risk registers or action plans. Then the outputs are risk register updates, risk management updates. After you've done your risk audits, variance and trends, you actually then update your risk register, your risk management updates. You can update them. You can change any requests according to the strategies that have been proposed. Then you can update your project documents and then your project management plan. Risk monitoring and control ensures that the execution of risk project activities is done, keeps track of activities while we do risk monitoring and control. It helps us to monitor risk trigger conditions so that we can easily address them before they occur. It helps us monitor residual risks and identifies new risks. That's why we do risk monitoring, and updates the management of the project and the progress as compared to the risk. So after you've done that, you have to update your management about the progress of the risks. How are they being handled? What is the progress on the actions plan stated, so that you manage these risks and they don't affect your project. In risk management planning, when you're doing your risk management planning, some of the inputs you need the look at the enterprise, the environmental factors. All this helps you identify risks that may potentially affect your project. Organization, process, assets. These can be maybe the bureaucracies. They can maybe in approval of money. These can potentially also affect or delay your project implementation. So it's a risk. Your project scope statement. Is the scope so big in terms of geographical or the time scope? Can we achieve this in this time limit? You can state maybe with this scope we may not achieve. This is going to be a hindering risk, or this or that. Helps you in your risk management planning. And the project management plan also, you use it to identify risks that may potentially affect your project progress or implementation. Then from the inputs you look at when you're identifying your risks, tools and techniques you need to actually come up with the risk management plan is you do planning meetings and analysis. So you can plan with the project managers and coordinators and project team. You analyze all these risks identified, come up with the action plans, strategies on how to address these risks, and then the output is your risk management plan. So the process is risk management planning. First, you start with the risk identification. Then you analyze the risk, that is the quantitative risk analysis, and then you do the quantitative risk analysis. Qualitatives in terms of the qualitative, these are just contexts and texts. Quantitative, this is in terms of numbers or budgets. Then you do your risk response planning, and you plan for these risks, how you're going to respond to them, the action plan, the strategies you put in place, and then after you do your risk monitoring and control. So what's the purpose of risk monitoring? One, it helps us determine the risk response implementation. How are we going to actually implement our project given these risks, and what can we do to address these risks so that it doesn't affect our project implementation. Then response plans of actions as being effective helps us to validate our project assumptions. Remember, when you're doing a logical framework analysis, if you're a project manager or a monitoring and evaluation officer or manager, you know in your logical framework you input assumptions, so project assumptions. So as a risk monitoring, it helps us to validate these project assumptions. These are assumptions we set. Are they affecting us? How can we address them so that we achieve this project objective or implement our project successfully? Helps us to check if risk exposures have been changed from prior identified analysis and trends. And risk monitoring also helps us see if risk triggers have occurred, if proper policies and procedures are being followed in actually addressing these risks, and to see any new risks that were not identified, so that we can identify and actually come up with strategies. That's why we do risk monitoring as M&E managers or project managers. Inputs to the risk monitoring and control are: one thing you need when you're doing your risk monitoring and control. You need the risk management plan, the risk register, the approved change request, and work performance information. The risk management plan informs the risks that were identified in the plan and the actions plans. The risk register is the same thing. Approved change requests, any change requests in terms of risk management strategies. All this can inform you of the risk monitoring and controlling, and any work performance information or project status reports. This helps you in your risk monitoring. So there you can identify what was planned, what is the risk that was stated, how far is it on the action being stated, is it still active, is it still a dangerous risk or not. You categorize. Tools and techniques are risk reassessment, risk audits, variance and trend analysis, reserve analysis, and status meeting. It's a graphical performance report of risks, the actual, the earned value, the planned value, and the budget completion. All these accumulative values you can use in your risk performance report. Outputs, same geographical things. You can look at the risk registers, outputs of your risk monitoring, corrective action plans, recommended preventive actions, project change requests, organization process audits, asset updates, and project management plan updates. So after you've done your risk monitoring, you update your risk register, you do corrective action plans, you can recommend other preventive actions to manage the risks, you can change project risk requests, you can do organization audits or asset updates, depending on the risks that were outlined in the risk registers and management plan. And then you can also, after update, your project management plan. So this is a cyclical process, a graphical process of risk monitoring and control. So the inputs are risk management plan, the risk register, approved change requests, work performance and performance reports. And tools and techniques you can use in the risk monitoring. You can do risk assessments, risk audits, auditing the risks, how far the variance and trend analysis, what's the trend of these risks, what are the variances, technical performance measurement, the reserve analysis, and status meetings. Status meeting can openly discuss what are the risks you are foreseeing as project managers, coordinators, what are the actions you're proposing, and then you track on those actions, strategies to address those risks. Outputs, I said, are risk registers updated, risk change requests updated, recommended corrective actions from these the risk audits and assessments done and status meeting. Those are your outputs. Process assessment and project management assessment. So that's it today. Thank you very much. Like, share, and subscribe to my channel. Thank you.